Hi, I'm Lynne Northcott. You're watching Jog on TV, and today I'm really privileged to be with Tulsi Vagjiani, and she's here with me to tell you all about her journey towards self-acceptance.
Hello everyone, how are you doing?
So thank you for being here today, Tulsi.
Thank you for having me.
You have a really incredible journey, and I'd really love you to share that with us. And you've talked so much about your journey towards self-love and acceptance, and I'd love you to tell us, to help us to dissect how you've managed to get to that place.
I mean, I'll start with my story so you can get a sort of brief idea of who I am. I was 10 years old when I was involved in a plane crash. I lost my mum, my dad and my brother. So not only was I sort of dealing with the loss of my family, but I suddenly had life-changing scars. And to wake up in hospital, you know, almost 6 weeks later, post-accident, to sort of realise everything has changed. Yeah, because being in and out of hospital, you know, being flown back to the UK to have my treatments, I never quite understood what had actually happened. Everyone around me had told me what was going on, but when people said, "You've changed," how could I have changed if I still felt the same inside? And it's only when I looked in the mirror and I saw a different person looking back at me, that's when it hit me that something has happened. Now, because everyone around me had accepted me for the way I looked, I felt it was, you know, I felt accepted. But it wasn't the case when I left hospital, and it was the journey to and from school, the journey to and from hospital, that I realised I was different, that I didn't look like everybody else. I was different in every way, but I still felt the same me. The essence of me was still there, but it was getting lost now. It was getting suppressed by, you know, society's version of beautiful, children calling me names or just being bullied. And things changed.
Being a 10-year-old, and even in today's society, is hard enough, isn't it? But having gone through so much loss, and then this, the way that society was treating you on top of being a 10-year-old here in England, it must have been really difficult for you.
Yeah, it was a really tough journey, and I just think, you know, what we need to realise that as children, even though we might not show our emotions or our experiences of being bullied or something, it is happening. Right, and it is something we do need to talk about more of, and sort of give our children more sort of platform to talk about these things as well. I think it's really important, and know that they're not alone. You know, because I think, like, even with me growing up, I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody because no one would understand. And if I told my friends, they'd just be like, "Oh, don't worry about it, T, you know, it happens."
It sounds like there was a lot of focus on the external, and also not just from people around you in society, but also from the medical profession as well, to kind of fix you from the outside. Was there any kind of therapy in terms of social and emotional support?
No, not for myself at the time. I had social workers being involved just because of where I'm going to live, but in terms of any psychological help, I didn't get any, and I think that's it's quite sad actually, because, you know, we do need that. We do need some sort of psychological and emotional support, and especially for a child, not only because of the life-changing experiences, but of loss, even a loss of your whole identity, you know. And obviously growing up, because I didn't have that, I know I've dealt with things a lot differently, and I think we do need to know that there is help out there, right? Which there is now. In fact, there's quite a lot of help outside out there, but I think we still need to hone in on the fact that it is there, because even when you're suffering alone, you sometimes don't know it's there. Right?
So it's a case of how important it is to reach out.
Reach out, yes.
So with all these challenges facing you, and without the support that might be available today to some of the children that are going through similar things, how did you, tell us about that journey? How did you manage to give yourself that kind of love and support?
Gosh, it's so tough, isn't it? It's like we're talking almost, 30 years, but I think a lot of it was, you know, I've always been a very active mind person, you know, telling myself stories inside and then kind of changing the negative into positives, or trying to. I mean, there's been lots of different factors that have helped me. First of all, on a physical level, I put on a lot of weight during my depression time, and then I joined a local gym and I met a Pilates instructor. And that's where my journey of Pilates has come from.
And I noticed you started smiling as soon as you mentioned Pilates.
I know, it's so natural. But like for me, I think Pilates, because you're working from the inside out, You know, for anyone who doesn't know what Pilates is, you're using your finer muscles, you're strengthening your core. You know, you're basically using the whole of your body at its optimal, from your finer muscles to your gross muscles.
Yeah.
Now, working from the inside out, you know, I started to feel good, I started to feel strong. I sort of was coming out of the depression stage, which I didn't even know I was in depression. Because often or not, we don't know we are, you know, because when you start feeling low, you start questioning things. But yeah, so then when I started the Pilates journey, my body shape started to change, my confidence started to get, you started to notice it was getting a bit better. And then I found a degree that came up in Pilates. So a friend of mine encouraged me to go. It was a science degree, and me and science were a little bit like no-go. But I embraced it fully. I was like, I'm going to do this. And during that time, I was also exploring my spirituality as well. Now, my background growing up is I've grown up in a Hindu sort of, you know, religious sort of background, but I never quite practiced it in the way that it was portrayed to me. But I also feel like it's really important that we have our individual connection to the divine, like it's not a generic thing. And in exploring that, that's what I found. I read different religious textures. I was never looking to be a one person. I was looking for different ideas of how to piece my life together and to make sense of where my journey has been and where I am going. And that has really helped me grow as a person. And I think it's really fundamental. I think for my story, when I was growing up, I really felt God took my beauty just based on how I look. But I now know he was making me work from the inside out to appreciate who I am. And it is not the external. It is the internal light that radiates.
That's really beautiful, because I think so many of us, you know, regardless of our situation, we have so many inhibitions and we worry about how we look from the outside. But what you're telling us is about how important it is to accept ourselves internally first and foremost, to be able to believe that we're beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very personal journey, you know, and it's your own journey. It's not the journey of your children, your family, you know, it's not anyone else, it's yours. And to really find out who you are, find your strengths, your weaknesses, and work with them. Because at the end of the day, look, there's a place for everybody on this earth. We're all part of a bigger picture. And we all have a place, basically. And whatever your role is, shine that role. You know, be in that role.
That's beautiful. And although that was such a huge message, have you got something you can tell our viewers, you know, who may be struggling or going through some kind of difficulty in trying to accept themselves, no matter what, in what way or how?
I think fundamentally, like, you know, we are all different, and why do we want to be sort of part of this sort of, you know, togetherness? Stand alone in your own truth. And when you stand in your own truth, nothing can sort of alter where you're going, and that will also help you with your own focus and drive. And self-acceptance is the biggest thing. I think it's so easy to be caught up in the grand scheme of everything going around you, but if you accept who you are and you know who you are, nothing can alter you, you know, nothing can sort of come in and shake your foundations. So keep your foundation really strong. And be true to yourself. I think that's really fundamental.
So what about someone who's feeling really low, and what you're talking about, it sounds like it's so far away, it's a destination that feels unreachable. How can they take that first step towards reaching that destination? I
think, like, I mean, something that I use quite often, actually. I mean, I build myself up into such a state. But if you take a staircase, right, like even at your own house or anything, I always use the underground as a really great example for those of you who live in London. So you look at that staircase. Now, for me, I suffer shortness of breath, and particularly around winter, it's really tough. When I look at that staircase, I get myself into a panic, like, oh my God, how am I going to get there? I'm going to be knackered, I'm going to be exhausted, you know, all of these thoughts. But what I've started to do is, if I take the first step, so on step one, and really focus on being on step one, and then look at step two, and, you know, by the 14th or 15th step, whichever, you know, however many steps there are, you've reached the top, and you've used minimal exertion. You've used minimal exertion, right? Like, you haven't kind of gone to the top and kind of go, oh my God, that was horrendous. You've just gone with a lot more ease. And I think if we use that kind of concept in everything, it is one step. And if it is one step where you've actually just got out of bed that's a huge tick.
Yeah.
If it's one step where you've managed to have a shower when for days you didn't even have the energy to do that, that's a huge tick for me. You know,
they call it baby steps, don't they? But in fact, it almost undermines that. Actually, it's a huge step, and it's adults. Sometimes we need to take small steps as well to get to our destination.
No, I agree. And then, like, even with the baby, right? Like, you know, we know a child is going to walk eventually, be it 9 months, 2 years, whatever their development stage allows them. But they never give up.
Yeah. Right?
They still keep going. Yeah. Yes, it might knock their confidence a bit when they fall or whatever, but they do keep going. And one day they reach this milestone and everyone around them cheers and goes, yeah, my baby walked and everything.
Yeah.
But it's the same for us adults. Sometimes it can take, like, a trauma can happen and it can take 4 years to get through the initial pain. But you do get there. And I think that's important to know. You will get there.
Yeah.
But don't put that pressure on yourself, I think, is a big thing.
And I guess with the pain in terms of trauma, we can never really overcome that pain entirely, can we? But what can we do to turn that pain into, like, a driving force? How can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, look, pain is what makes us humans. I mean, no one's exempt from pain and suffering. That I always say that. However, it's from that pain we can either grow or we can be stagnant. In my pain, what I've done, every time I've been in some sort of deep pain, I've tried to change it by challenging myself to do something bigger or grander than what I ever imagined. For example, in 2003, 2004, I broke up with somebody and it was quite devastating. I really felt it was the end of the world. But that's the year my degree came up. Now, but in my head, I couldn't imagine me doing it. Because I thought, no, I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, I'm not committed enough, all of these factors which I was trying to prevent me from doing something. But I threw myself in there. So in that pain, it drove me to better my life. Now, I'm not saying go and do something elaborate like that, but change your pain into something challenging. But that's going to, I don't know, put you in an uncomfortable situation. And in uncomfortable situations is where you're going to grow.
Yeah. That's right. They say smooth seas never make great sailors, isn't it?
Definitely.
So sometimes when we're in a state of being stagnant or in some form of low mood or depression, the idea of doing something outside a comfort zone can be really scary. But however, if we do that, we will grow and we will develop and actually say to ourselves, wow, do you know what? I did that really well and that was good and this feels good.
I think fundamentally, like, for every human being that I can think of, like, that has even crossed my path, the first thing I can say is be kind to yourself, because we are so hard on ourselves as human beings. We've got this big, we're up there, and then you've got this pressure of getting up there, but we don't enjoy the little journey, the steps, the emotions and everything. But if we're kind, that pressure goes, and you enjoy it. And that's what I started to do. And that's when my journey of self-love started. Because I started to be kind. If I can be kind to others, why am I exempt from that? Right? If you can display love to your children, your family and everyone else, what makes you think you don't deserve that? You know, because we do. Because you are a being. And I don't know about you, but have you ever found in times when you're not being kind to yourself, that kind of ruminates negatively and other people can take advantage of us? And on the flip side, when we are being kind to ourselves, it ruminates to others, and positivity and love from others comes back to us too. Most definitely, it's the law of attraction. You know, you will attract what you give out, and if you're giving out love and kindness from a genuine place, then that ripple effect is phenomenal. And we know the power of a thought. So you can imagine the power of an action. It's crazy. Tell us about the power of a thought. You know, I think the power of thought, so like if I've got a negative thought today, then my whole being is going to give that vibe off. And I am going to attract those kind of people who are in a negative place or want to put something negative onto me. And then I will absorb and carry that. And you're going to go back down the staircase, aren't you? Absolutely. Yeah, so I will look at that staircase and want to actually give up. So forget taking the first step, I just don't want to take any. But just with some love and kindness, that one step that two-step, it just gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
And you start bringing people with you on that journey. And that's what's beautiful.
Yeah. I keep imagining this baby going up the stairs, and you know, those of us that have been around children, they gravitate towards the stairs, don't they? And that's why we put stair gates up. We try to stop them. Well, we're not there to like look after them. But when we are there with them, we stay just behind them. We don't go ahead of them, we don't go beside them, but we stay just behind. And we go, let them go. And I think that's important for us, isn't it? That we let ourselves go.
Yeah, I mean, I think even as adults, like, I think, you know, the greatest thing that we can give somebody is our time and also our guidance. We are here to guide. We're not here to take someone's experiences away. We're not here to take someone's pain away, because we physically can't. But we can ease things for them. Right? I think, like, I always refer to mothers, because I think I've just got that connection with women and children at the moment, where a mother doesn't need elaborate things. She just needs someone just maybe to go for a walk together, or can you just hold my baby while I have a shower? You know, those things are what we need. And if we can give that, can you imagine how much you've given that mother? Like, you've given her so much. And yet to you, it's just, oh, I've only held her baby while she has a shower. But it's something big. But it's the little things that make up the bigger picture. And I think that's what we keep losing. We feel like we have to do this elaborate thing, but it's not. The best gift you can give yourself, to be honest, is that self-belief. Because if you don't have that, everything's a struggle, isn't it? Even if it's the belief that today I'm just going to get out of my house, that in itself is huge. I think, like, with beauty, it's a very personal journey as well, because you've got to find out what's beautiful for you, not what's aesthetic to the world. And then fighting that, then fighting who you are, it's such a struggle. But I've come to accept my own beauty as my own. And I don't mould that on anyone. So even with an outfit, I wear what I'm comfortable. And if it's trainers with dress, then it's trainers with dress, right? Like, I own that, though.
Trainers with dress.
But I own it. Whereas before, I'd have felt really uncomfortable. No, I should wear heels because everyone's wearing it. And do I look girly enough and everything? But no, I create my own identity. You know? So I think that's really important, is owning your own beauty as well.
Self-confidence, it does emanate, doesn't it, towards other people. It's like a light, like you were saying before. It shines out and it sends beams everywhere.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's like that headlights, you know. You can have a headlight that just is tunnel vision. You can have one that sort of radiates all the lanes. You know, and we're quite blessed we have that in our cars now, don't we? But that's what that light is, because if you're standing in your own truth and beauty, nothing can, you know, alter you. Nothing can shake your ground. And
also, you don't to have a voice, and clearly you do have a voice, and you have. And when someone with your confidence and we hear you, it I think, you know, that just stops traffic. You know, because so many people could be, like, you know, aesthetically beautiful as the Western world, or the, you know, the Eastern world says is what is beautiful. But inside, they could be crumbling inside, because they have no confidence, no voice, no self-assurance or anything. Yeah, and I think also, like, I've had lots of particularly women that come up to me and they go, wow, your story resonates me. Like, I share my story because I don't see me as anything special, but I'm living an extraordinary life. That's what's the difference. I've got a rich life because of the experiences, rather than thinking of them as negative. But when I share my story, it's because as a woman or a young girl growing up, we can all resonate with some part of it, from the confidence to lack of self-worth to all these factors. So it might not be about a loss of a family in one go, but it could be a loss of a job, it could be a loss of our own confidence, or you know, any kind of loss. So we can tap into emotions, and that's what makes us beautiful humans, is we all have these emotions. I think sometimes there can be big cultures, not just at school, but even in the workplace, that sometimes people beat you down, like little comments, little side comments, family members, where, you know, we're building ourselves up, and someone will try and take us down a few steps or two, because for some reason perhaps they're lacking in confidence themselves, so it makes them feel better to knock us down. So how do we cope with that? Man, it's so tough, isn't it? I mean, I've grown up in a family where, you know, I grew up like with the factor that, you know, you're ugly, no one's going to be attracted to you. So I grew up with that. So I carried that, because your family is the one that you're always going to believe, regardless of what it is they fed you. And you grow up, and then one day you realise
oh, that's not actually the truth.
Yeah.
But in that now is, I don't need to listen to them to validate who I am. I know who I am.
Yeah.
And even in their eyes, I might be ugly, I might be useless, I might be everything under the sun, but I know I'm not.
Yeah. And we see you. You know, when I hear your story, when I've seen your interviews on the internet and that, talking to you today, I see you, you know, and everything that is you, inside, outside, everything, all in one. And I don't come across many people like that, where you can sit with someone and feel like you're truly with them in a holistic way.
Yeah.
And that's what amazing about you.
No, but we all have it. That's the thing. We all have it. It's just, you know, the journey to yourself. I'll always say this. The journey to yourself is the most craziest ride of your life. It's like a roller coaster, right? There are highs, there are lows, there are ugly moments, there are sad moments, there are like joyous moments. There's every moment. But when you are going through it, it's the best feeling in the whole world. The truth is ugly, as we know sometimes. Our own one. Yeah. But once you own it, it's not ugly anymore. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's all roses and flowers, right? But the thing is, go through it. Really own it and go through it. Be honest. Be really honest. I mean, there's days, don't get me wrong, I've had tough days. And when people look at me and go, you have tough days? Like, you make everything so positive and light. Yeah. But I said, I share those tough days. I share that because I want to give somebody the knowledge that even though my life might look beautiful and light, and it is, I am going through everyday struggles as well. Yeah.
So it's about being realistic, because we wouldn't want to paint a picture and say, hey, look at me, I've got it all. You know, I've you know, reached this enlightenment, and you know, my life's, everything's together, and even when it's tough, I'm still got it, because that's not realistic, is it?
No, I mean, life is about learning, and I think if you're stagnant, it's such a shame. Why would I just not wish any stagnation on anyone? Yeah. It's a growing journey. Don't be caught up in a situation that happened in the past and live in it. I've done that myself. For example, if I've done something bad, I've painted myself to be a bad person, but just a situation wasn't good doesn't mean I'm a bad person. But I lived there and I was convinced I was a bad person based on one thing. And we do that because no one teaches or guides us that it was just a moment. It's okay. You are still a fantastic person.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like saying, no one or not many people do bring us back to that place where they say it's okay, and we don't live in a culture like that.
No.
That's something we need to change, isn't it, as a society?
Most definitely. I mean, I'm so blessed. I've got a 5-year-old niece, and you know, she's been fantastic, but she's also been my teacher of what change we need to see in this world for that generation and beyond. And I give her a lot of empowerment. I give her the opportunity to take responsibility for herself from this age. So whatever actions and stuff she portrays, it's her responsibility. She's not putting it out to the world. The world is not to blame for her problems. That's for her to own and take. But it's also hers to sort of change that as well. And know she doesn't have to live in those. She's a growing being. We are all growing beings. The day we stop learning is when we take our last breath and we say thank you. And I always believe, like, you know, the last day when I meet my maker, I said, I've used everything you've given me. I've done my lot. Thank you. That for me is very important. But that's the day we stop learning. Until then, we never stop.
So like utilising everything that we have in our life, the people, our resources, our health, everything. And if we feel like we don't have those tools, we need to go out and find them.
Yeah, they're there. You know, like I said, the answers are within. But we just need to silence our mind to listen to that.
And I guess Pilates must have really helped you to do that, to silence and be still and to kind of get in connection with all of the different components of you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with Pilates, if anyone's done it, it is actually tough. And I've seen people go, I'm not going back because it's hard work.
Sitting with yourself sometimes, isn't it? Because the emotions rise more than the physical aspect.
Most definitely.
We've suddenly become aware of this anger or this sadness or this loss that perhaps we hadn't had time in such a busy life to actually be able to get in touch with.
And also, we're quite scared of silence as human beings. So even that 1 hour with yourself actually can feel really daunting, because it's like you've got to start listening to yourself, and that's like, oh gosh. But like with meditation, I mean, that came with Pilates as well. I struggled with meditation because everyone's like, do it, it's great for you. And I was like, yeah, because my mind wants to be full on and then to silence that. But I love meditation now. It's my treat for myself. And it's such a cliche because we're in that time and zone and era now where it's all about things like that, but it works. It really does, because your answers for yourself come through. You can hear them, you know.
So when I hear your story, I really get this imagination of really focusing on all the different parts of yourself and your humanity and your spirituality, and this whole sense of togetherness. However, you know, part of being a human is that it's not always like that, isn't it? So how do you, when you find yourself slipping, how do you pick yourself back up again to try to maintain that journey?
For me, like, my biggest thing is serving humanity. I love humanity. There are days when I think humanity is lost, but my faith gets repaired again, because when I see the small acts of kindness, and we've got the pleasure of social media, we can see things now, that brings it back to me, and I know what I'm doing is a good thing, and that's what I want to resonate to everybody else. Just one act of kindness, pay it forward in any capacity. It's not about money, it's about time. It's about the gift of time is the best donation you can give, and that's what restores me back to being whole again. But also watching other people's journey, watching them grow, that first step, from the time they wanted to give up and they've taken that first step, for me, that brings me joy. And that's not just people around me, that's people beyond me when I see that, you know. I know so many stories. I mean, I get lots of messages on a daily basis where, you know, they may have read one of my articles or seen something, and they go, wow, you've actually made me want to live today. I cannot even imagine what impact that might have had on them, or where they were before in that mind space, to want to live. That to me is huge.
And when you think about how differently things could have been when when that plane crash happened, it just actually, you know, I'm getting hairs on my arms and just thinking about how God had a purpose for you. You survived that plane crash, and today you're saving lives. When people hear your story, I'm feeling very emotional. When people hear your story and you're telling me that they want to live because of all that you have been through.
I think so it's huge back. You know, I think, like, for me, when I was growing up, when people say, wow, you're so blessed to have survived, and I couldn't understand that. I said, how can you say that when I've lost everything? But it's as I've grown up and I know that there's a greater reason of why I've survived. You know, I cannot live a mundane life now. To know that I've survived for a particular reason. And my reason is I need to share my story on a global scale. Not because I want people to hear my story, but I want them to get hope. I want them to feel hope that they too can get through something that might seem really tough.
Tell them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, look, my story, you know, is about survival, but I just want you to know that there is hope out there. And I feel there's days when you want to give up, but just know you have a purpose. Find your purpose, find your role of why you're here, and share that, because this world needs someone like you. It really does. We all are part of this bigger plan. You know, I'm just a speck in this ocean, and there's millions of other specks, and we all come together. And for me, my love of humanity is why I am here.
And for that, although it seems so small and insignificant, I'm going to give you my jog on badge.
Thank you. I'm going to wear this with pride.
Because, I mean, it's just the word jog on, it just means, you know, that you've overcome so much, and you just keep going. And even when you find yourself slipping back down the staircase, you give it another go, step by step. I really feel you deserve this. It's just such a small thing, but
it's big.
It's a token of, you know, how I value you and how you're such an amazing, beautiful person. And I'd love you to have this.
Thank you. I'll be so honoured. Oh, that's so beautiful. Jog on.
So please, if you want to know more about Tulsi's journey, go to her website, which is
www.tulsivagjiani.com.
And thank you for watching, and please share her story, because you may just save a life today if someone hears about Tulsi's journey and it inspires them to live.
Thank you.